Today, we're going to take a look at Python's if, elif, else structure. The if, elif allows us to ask multiple questions in one statement, and whichever a question is correct or true, we will perform what is within the indented block, which can be any number of Python statements. At the end, there's an optional else. The optional else is essentially a catch-all, meaning that if all the above statements are false, it is the statement that will be executed along with everything that's indented underneath it. So for an example, we're going to do this problem dealing with a traffic ticket. We're going to write a Python program that will get a speed in miles per hour and will print a string stating what kind of ticket a police officer should give the driver. And there's a table here which depicts what we are going to print. So for example, if the individual is driving greater than 65 miles an hour and less than or equal to 70, we're just going to give them a warning. On the other hand, if they're driving greater than 80 miles an hour, we're going to essentially arrest them for reckless endangerment. To start this off, first we need to do is to get the speed of the individual. And the speeds are an integer value because all speedometers in cars do not give you a fractional point of speed. So we're going to ask the question, what was the speed of the driver? Once we have that speed, we're going to start asking some questions. So the first question is, if the speed is less than or equal to 65 miles an hour, we're going to print no ticket. But there's more questions to be asked, so this is where the elif comes in. Elif, 65 is less than the speed, and it's less than or equal to 70 miles an hour. This is a trick that Python allows you to do. Many other languages would require you to write this as "65 is less than speed, and speed is less than or equal to 70. The and is saying both of these have to be true in order for the whole statement to be true. Python allows us to condense that by putting the variable in between the two values that you are checking against, which when Python evaluates that, this part has to be true and this part has to be true. So if we are greater than 65 and less than or equal to 70, we're going to print warning. But we got another question to ask. So if 70 is less than the speed, which is less than or equal to 75, we're going to write speeding to the screen. Our next question is, going to ask if we're greater than 75 but less than or equal to 80. We're then going to say reckless driving. And if all the other ones are false, this is where we don't have to ask another question, because if it wasn't able to find one of the previous questions being true, this is where the else comes in. We can now say else print reckless driving. So let's give this a shot. Remember, we can press F5 on Windows, function F5 on a Mac, or on any system we can do run and then run module. After we save, it's going to execute for us. And let's say at first we were doing 70 miles an hour. So how did warning come out on the screen? This one was false. So since it was false, we're going to ask the next question. The next question says, was the speed between 65, or I should say greater than 65, and less than or equal to 70? This was true, and then this is what printed. Once it was done, it ignored everything else. To demonstrate that, what we're going to do is we're going to say end of program, and let's run it again. And this time, I'm going to use the same value, 70, and notice it said the warning again, and it skipped everything else and printed out end of program. Let's run it again. And this time I'm going to say 95. 95, what did it do? The first question was false. Second question was false. Third question was false. Fourth question was false. So since all of those were false, the else happened, and it printed reckless driving. One more. Let's do the simple one. Let's just say we're doing 30 miles an hour, and the 30 miles an hour made the first one true, so it skips, it does what's underneath it, and then skips everything else and prints out the end of program.